On this episode of Team Pilipinas, we introduce you to the country's new Olympian, Kurt Barbosa.
Nakita ko na po kasi yung kalaban ko na parang nababawasan na yung stamina niya, parang nape-pressure na po siya.
We visit the national Muay Thai team in their bubble in Benguet.
Ngayon, masasabi kong panatag na ako kasi magkakasama lahat yung mga national team ko. Hindi kagaya nun na puros virtual lang kami.
And catch up with MMA and Sambo superstar Mark Striegel.
It was an exciting, super exciting time and accomplishment for me, something I'll never forget, especially because it was hosted here in the Philippines.
Welcome to Team Pilipinas. I am Dennis Principe. Kurt Barbosa saw his Olympic dream slipping away until, with a last-second kick, he catapulted himself to Tokyo. I spoke with Kurt as soon as he arrived in the country. Kurt, first of all, congratulations. Isa ka ng legit Olympian.
Maraming salamat po Sir Dennis for having me here and good evening po sa mga nanonood po.
Okay. And ano bang feeling ngayon, no? Na yun na, no? First time mo mag-Olympics and alam natin kung gaano ka-importante ito para sa isang atleta. Pero ikaw, ano yung feeling nito? Anong dating nito para sa iyo, sa iyong career and sa iyo personally?
Thankful and grateful po ako kay God kasi binigay niya sa akin tong Olympics. And ako po ngayon sobrang saya talaga na unexplainable yung saya ko kasi pangarap po ng lahat ng atleta is nito nga po yung Olympics, tapos ako pa po yung makakalaro po doon, makakaapak sa Tokyo Olympics. So ako naman po, no pressure lang ako, basta nag-enjoy po ako lagi. Yun po yung importante sa akin.
Nabanggit mo yan, nag-enjoy ka lang, no pressure lagi. Apparently, that played a great part doon sa iyong Olympic qualifier, no? Sa Amman, Jordan. You were down by about 12, 13 points. Nahabol mo. Yung ba masasabi mo na composure din ang nagdala sa'yo or baka naman kakaiba, baka naman medyo talagang, kumbaga, niratsada mo na rin. Ano ba nangyari doon sa situation na yun na hinabol mo yung ganong kalaking kalamangan?
Nakita ko na po kasi yung kalaban ko na parang nababawasan na yung stamina niya, parang nape-pressure na po siya, parang kasi po may gum jump po yung deduction po sa amin. So ilang gum jumps naman po siya, matatalo na po siya kahit na ang layo ng score po namin, pero yung deduction po is yun yung habol po namin ni Coach Kaloy. So nagsisigawan na po kami na unti na lang ganyan. So continuous pressure lang po ako sa kanya. Hindi po ako nagpe-pressure that time, and sa tuwing nagrereklamo yung coach na, doon din po ako nakapag-isip ng maayos. So yun po, doon po nahabol ko po talaga siya dahil nakapagpahinga din during nagrereklamo yung kalaban.
Pero apparently sa mga dying minutes and dying seconds, parang hindi nangyari yung ano na yun, yung hinahabol ninyo na deduction, no?
Yes,
because nauwi sa isang sipa coming from you.
Yes po, sir. Yun nga po, sir. Nagulat po kami kaya napasigaw, napatalon talaga. Kasi yung di po namin ina-expect is yun yung nangyari po. Kumbaga, yung expect po kasi namin is yung gamjum talaga, yung deduction po. Kaso nga lang, yun nga, yung score naman na po kami nanalo, which is na 1 point. Sobrang miracle po yun, sir.
And yung nagawa mo yun, talaga bang, was it something na plinano mo, that one crucial offense sa'yo? Talaga bang yun, plinano mo na, kumbaga, sinukat and everything? Or was it something na parang instinct na lang para sa'yo?
Instinct na lang po talaga sir kasi yun nga isang point na lang din mananalo na ako, isang gambyom na lang din matatalo na siya. So doon po lahat pumasok na hindi po ako sumuko talaga kasi may oras po may oras pa, hindi pwedeng sumuko, hindi pwedeng tumigil. Yun nga, nasa isip ko po nung time na yun, ba't ako susuko hindi pa ako pagod tapos may oras pa naman.
Anong kondisyon? Talaga bang, yun nga sabi mo, pagod na yung kalaban mo no? Ikaw, parang masasabi mo na parang mas fresh ka pa talaga kaysa sa kanya?
Yes po sir, siguro po nang hina na yung kalaban ko kasi sobrang laki daw ng nilose weight nun. Kasi hindi talaga niya yung normal na fighting weight. So, naging advantage po siguro yung pag-lose weight. Kasi ako po, hindi masyadong nag-lose weight. Tapos maganda talaga yung condition ko. Yun po yung ganun po namin. Parang hindi ako napagod kasi parang hindi naman po ako nag-lose weight ng malaki.
Kurt, in reading the accounts, nung mga write-ups, yung storya, nung pagkakapanalo mo, isa lang yung napansin ko, na you were celebrating with your coach. Sabi mo, yes, eto na, nakamit na natin and everything. Pero parang, well, at least I have to admit, yung meron lang akong konting concern na parang, baka naman dun maubos na. Kasi baka parang, remember, that's just actually the final step, papunta rin sa Olympics. But going into the Olympics, it's a different animal, bagong laban. You think medyo meron pang natira sa'yo na motivation, considering na talagang you were really celebrating really big dun sa nangyaring Olympic qualifier?
Yes po sir, after naman po, alam ko naman po kasi mag-move on agad. Kumbaga kung tapos na, kailangan mag-move forward po agad sa next na goal. Yun po lagi yung mindset ko na para hindi po hindi po ma-stay yung ganun na mindsetting ko po. Kailangan ko lang talaga mag-move forward agad. Di po pwede mag-stay sa ganun lang. Kasi alam ko din po yung level dun iba yung level. So, kailangan ko din mag-level up. So, yun. Hindi ko pwedeng i-relax yung sarili ko po.
In leveling up, Kurt, mga less than 2 months na lang halos at mag-Olympics na. How do you intend to level up yung iyong preparations, ikaw at ang iyong team papuntang Tokyo, Japan?
Now pa lang po sir, alam na po namin yung magiging pwedeng kalaban namin. So inaaral na po namin ngayon pa lang. So para hindi kami mahirapan doon, kailangan namin na agad aralin ngayon kasi ilang months na nga lang. Pero habang inaaral ko po yun, mas pinaghahandaan ko talaga yung sarili ko na sumabak sa ganun na laban. So, handa naman po ako lagi.
Kurt, can you give us names yung mga, siguro masasabi natin na aabangan dun sa, at least sa division mo, yung mga talagang, yung mga siga, na sasabakan natin sa Tokyo?
Yung mga rank 1 to 6 kasi, yun yung mga Korea, Italy, Ireland, Iran, Russia. Yan po talaga yung mga big 1 to 6 ranking namin sa Olympics. So yun po talaga yung mga pinag-aaralan talaga lahat. Kasi sila yung mga matik qualified na po, kumbaga hindi na sila nag-qualifiers So yun, lahat pinaghahandaan po namin, isa't isa sa amin siguro ngayon. Kaya handa naman po ako sa mga ganun na sitwasyon.
Meron ka na ba nakalaban sa mga yon, yung nabanggit mo ng mga top qualifiers, in particular yung top 6 na binabanggit mo?
Wala pa naman po sir kasi baguhan pa po ako. So hindi pa ako na gaganon sa mga laban nila. So more on nanonood lang talaga ako sa mga YouTube. Mga laban po nila. Doon ko lang po sila nakikita. Hindi pa po kami nakikita sa mga laban sa international.
And I'm sure, proud na proud yung pinanggalingan mong probinsya, Abra. How proud ka naman sa iyo na ito'y nakamit mo bilang isang Filipino athlete?
Sobrang proud ako sir kasi lagi ko nga binabanggit na batang Abra to. Yun nga, sinasabi nila na matatapang talaga yung mga taga-Abra, hindi basta-basta nagpapatalo. So, mas na, the more na nakikita ko silang masaya, the more din po ako na-inspire sa kanila kasi taga-Abra nga po ako. Raised and born po talaga ako doon since pagkabata doon ko po na-experience lahat-lahat, kumbaga hindi magpatalo, mga ganun po nila. Ugali po nila doon, matatapang, mga ganun po sir. So, proud po ako na as a Brenyan po.
And yung pagiging tapang Abrenyan, Kurt, gaano kalayo mo makikita nadadalhin ka pagdating sa Olympics?
I won't promise po sir na magkakaroon ng medal, pero gagawin ko yung way para makuha yung medal po. Talagang kung kahit na sobrang skip yung butas na kailangan pasukin talaga, paghirapan po.
Kurt Barbosa, Filipino Olympian, maraming salamat and congratulations.
Thank you so much sir. Thank you.
We visit the national Muay Thai team in their bubble in Benguet.
Ngayon, masasabi kong panatag na ako kasi magkakasama lahat yung mga national team ko. Hindi kagaya nun na puros virtual lang kami.
Bahagi na ng buhay nating mga Pilipino ang sports. Mula sa panahon ng unos, sa tamis ng tagumpay, sa kabila ng pagbabago ng buhay, ang Philippine Sports Commission ay patuloy na magigilingkod sa sambayanan at atletang Pilipino.
Unknown to many, the Philippine Muay Thai team has been training in their own bubble in Benguet State University. What are their plans with less than 6 months before the Vietnam Southeast Asian Games?
Welcome to Team Pilipinas. I am Missy Icasiano. The Philippine National Muay Thai team is finally back in training, setting up camp at the Benguet State University in La Trinidad. With less than 6 months to prepare, it's a race against time for Coach Billy Alumno and his athletes to attain peak form for the 2021 Southeast Asian Games in Hanoi. Like any other squad at the national level, the Philippine Muay Thai team hasn't been spared from the ravaging effects brought by the pandemic, forcing them to shelve original plans following a stellar run in the 2019 SEA Games.
Ang original plan po namin uli is we have foreign training na mag-stay kami sa Thailand for 6 months, 3 to 6 months for training. Kasi doon namin huhubugin yung mga bago naming atleta, which is need nila talaga yung mga exposure. Kasi yun nga, maraming entry sa SEA Games ngayon na ginawa ng Vietnam. So we make sure na we prepare for longest training program. Pero yun nga, dahil sa pandemic, na ganito nangyari. So ganito na lang ginawa namin. So we stick with the bubble training.
Ngayong kinaharap natin na pandemic, sir, yun yung masasabi mo, sir, na hindi ka dapat sumuko, sir, sa ganitong panahon, sir, or ganitong may pandemic tayo. Isa po sa mga mapoprove natin, sir, na itong problema na to, sir, kaya nating lampasan. Basta magdasal lang tayo, magtiwala lang tayo sa may kapal na lahat ng mga challenge po na makakarap natin ay malalampasan natin, sir.
Most recently, the Philippine Muay Thai team got a clearance that allows them to hold bubble training, taking refuge at the Benguet State University. The whole team knows that they have to make up for lost time and maximize their limited resources.
Napakalaking tulong po ang pangtanggap sa amin ng Benguet State University sa pamumuno ni BSU President Felipe Salaing Kumila. Kami po ay nagpapasalamat sa BSU kasi malugod silang tinanggap ang Muay Thai National Team. So, ngayon, masasabi kong panatag na ako kasi magkakasama lahat yung mga national team ko. Hindi kagaya nun na puros virtual lang kami, which is ang hirap. Ang hirap ng sitwasyon nun sa virtual. Hindi mo talaga maki-check or hindi mo talaga sila mababantayan sa training. So, ganoon, laking pasalamat sa BSU and sa LGU po na nag-approve ng aming permit sa dito sa La Trinidad Benguet ng Mayor, si Romeo Salda. Maraming salamat kay Mayor Salda kasi inapprovean yung permit ng Muay Thai Association of the Philippines.
Laking bagay sir na nagkaroon kami ng training ngayon sir na tuloy-tuloy sir, hindi tulad ng nasa online. Iba po talaga sir na actual po yung training, kasama mo yung mga coaches, kasama mo yung mga teammates mo. Yan sir, maganda po talaga sir na actual na yung training sir.
Yung hindi namin nung isang taon na di kami nakapag-training ng mabuti, ngayong 2021 gagawin namin na lahat 100% para makasungkit ulit ng gintong medalya para sa Pilipinas, para sa bayan sir.
Mas porsigido ngayon kami ngayon sir kasi alam namin na halos isang taon din kami sir na hindi nakapag-training ng maayos. More on Zoom training, online training. Minsan sir hindi pa ako nakakapag-join kasi gawa nga nasa Philippine Navy ako sir after SEA Games. After ng SEA Games, hindi na rin yun na yung DS namin. Ginamit kami ng AFP para maging frontliner yung ibang soldiers athlete. Then, ngayon sir, nagpapasalamat kami sa AFP at saka sa PSC at saka Philippine Navy na na-renew po nila ngayon ang aming DS na ulit sir. Kaya andito po ako ngayon sir sa bubble training sa Benguet sir.
Daming event na hindi nasalihan. Kaya ngayon, training kami ngayon para sa next na event. At nagpapasalamat po ako sa POC, PSC at sa Muay Thai Association of the Philippines. Ito gagawin namin bubuhos namin 100% sa training, sa laban para makasungkit ulit ng medalya, sir.
Kahit na pandemic, tinatry namin lalo na yung PSC, POC at saka yung MAP, Muay Thai Association of the Philippines na make sure na nasa prepared yung team namin sa SEA Games.
Though their backs are against the wall, the Philippine national Muay Thai team plans to defy odds and give their opposition in the upcoming SEA Games a run for their money.
Sa 11 na weight category ng SEA Games, bali 10 yung pinaplano namin na ipadala. Which is sure na dito yung mga medalist last year, kagaya ni Philip Dilarmino, yung gold medalist natin, si Ariel Lampacan, si Jenilyn Olsim. Yan po yung mga naka-sure for SEA Games natin. So yung 7 na entry is nandito lahat naman sila sa bubble. Kagaya ng sinabi ko, dapat nga nasa foreign training kami kasi doon namin talaga hakasahin ng mga to for exposure. So ngayon, walang ibibigay na exposure yung mangyayaring exposure ngayon kasi dahil nga sa pandemya. So mahirap pumunta sa ibang bansa. So nag-i-stick na lang kami dito sa mga training namin dito sa Benguet, which is talagang pinipilit namin na magkaroon sila ng mga laro dito habang nandito kami sa bubble. Actually, ngayong June, meron invitation po yung UAE, yung United Arab Emirates Muay Thai Association, na meron silang Asian title fight. So, ang nasa ranking po kasi sa 57 kilograms, kailangan nilang 57 kilograms is naka-rank po dito ay si Philip Dilarmino. So si Philip Dilarmino ay siya yung napili na challenger ng UAE para sa Asian title fight sa June 28. So, yun, nagpa-process kami ng mga, ngayon, yung mga visa, mga kailangan na documents para doon. Pag nagkaroon ng magandang sitwasyon ngayon sa September, meron kaming pinaplano ng MAP na isang 1-month training program sa Thailand bago sumabak sa SEA Games.
Laking bagay po sir yung exposure talaga bago yung SEA Games. So then sir, sa more than 1 year na natenga kami, hindi kami nakapaglaro, hindi nakapag-training ng maayos. Ito sir, importante talaga yung magkaroon talaga sir ng panibang exposure na naman para hindi manibago, para maging condition po sir sa parating na mga competition sir. Isa din sir, pressure talaga sir dahil gawa nga kailangan natin defend yung natin, yung dating gold medal dapat. Yun, hindi mawawala yung pressure dyan sir pero ginagawa namin sir yung paraan sir, magdo-double time kami sir dahil alam namin na siyempre maraming panahon yung hindi namin napag-trainingan yun sir, double time talaga kami sir para mapaghandaan ko sir yung parating na SEA Games sir at makasungkit ulit sir ng isa pang gintong medalya sa SEA Games sir.
So, gagawin ko pa rin ng lahat para sa bayan at magpupursige pa ako na mag-training. Gagawin ko po ang lahat para maka-medal ulit po sa darating na SEA Games po sir.
Tiwala naman ako sa aking mga atleta ngayon sa ginagawa. Mas lalo lang ngayon, mas nagpupursige sila talaga na bumalik sa training at talagang bibigay nila 100% ang kanilang more than 100% ang kanilang makakaya para sa SEA Games kasi lalo na gustong-gusto nila maglaro na hindi sila napatigil sila ng 2 taon. So talagang masasabi ko they are eager to win for the gold medal again for our country.
As the old saying goes, any person with 2 hands has a fighting chance, especially if you are as determined as the Philippine national Muay Thai team. I am Nisi Casiano, sumasaludo sa atletang Pilipino, and this is Team Pilipinas.
Catch up with MMA and Sambo superstar Mark Striegel.
It was an exciting, super exciting time and accomplishment for me, something I'll never forget, especially because it was hosted here in the Philippines.
Bahagi na ng buhay nating mga Pilipino ang sports. Mula sa panahon ng unos, sa tamis ng tagumpay, sa kabila ng pagbabago ng buhay, ang Philippine Sports Commission ay patuloy na maglilingkod sa sambayanan at atletang Pilipino.
Welcome to Team Pilipinas. I'm Nisi Casiano. At the 2019 Southeast Asian Games, MMA veteran Mark Striegel was one of the many Filipino athletes who answered the call of duty to represent the country in the biennial meet. Today on Team Pilipinas, Striegel goes into detail about his opportunity to don the national colors in combat sambo. Mark, welcome to Team Pilipinas and glad to have you on the program today.
Happy to be here. Thank you, bro. Thanks for having me.
Mark, the 2019 SEA Games will forever be one of your career highlights on your resume. Can you walk us through the time you got recruited and made the tryouts for the national team?
Yeah, it was an exciting, super exciting time and accomplishment for me, something I'll never forget, especially because it was hosted here in the Philippines. So I was recruited about 2 years before the SEA Games by Coach Jerry Legaspi. And at the time, to be honest, I had no training in Sambo. I knew what Sambo was because I'm a fan of martial arts and I've been competing in MMA most of my life. But I wasn't familiar. I had no training in Sambo, no formal training in Sambo. So there was a bit of a learning curve for me. And, there are similarities to MMA. The main difference being that we're wearing the gi, right? The uniform. That's same as karate, same as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We're wearing a gi top and we're wearing shorts. So the uniform is a little different from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in that we're wearing shorts. Anyway, I had to train a lot of judo. Had to learn a lot of throw defenses, breaking and grip fighting, hand fighting, etc. Because for MMA, I'm used to no gi training. We're not wearing a uniform. We're not wearing a top. A few months before the SEA Games, I had a competition in Korea, which I actually lost that. I didn't place, and it was kind of baptism by fire. It was my first Sambo competition overseas, representing the country, and I lost in Korea. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is 2 months before the SEA Games, and I got eliminated. And it was kind of a big wake-up call, and I realized that this is not. There are similarities to MMA, but it's much more point-based, and there are a lot of adjustments that I had to make. So after I didn't do well at that competition, I really, focused on what I needed to change to do well in the SEA Games, and it was kind of like a not a crash course, but all in, just every day training really, really hard, learning as much judo and just focusing purely on Sambo from that competition in Korea all the way up until the SEA Games. And the hard work, everything paid off because placed gold, won gold in the SEA Games, and it was definitely an amazing experience.
I know you as a wrestler even before you transitioned to MMA, but you could have tried out for the national wrestling team. Why did you choose Sambo?
I think just timing. Well, one, I had never been recruited by. I know that we have a great wrestling team, and of course, if I could play in both and represent both, play in both sports for the Philippines, that would be amazing. If I could have wrestled and done Sambo in the SEA Games, that would have been awesome. But I think they were in different venues, and I don't know if the dates were overlapping, so maybe it wouldn't have been possible. But just the timing with everything. Coach Jerry recruited me. He was already my training partner at Fist at the time, and then round one after that. And we were just training together regularly, and just the opportunity kind of appeared, and I was like, hey, why wouldn't I try to seize this opportunity where I can be join the Philippine national team and represent the country, in the Philippines where we actually hosted. So it was amazing.
By looking at what you have achieved, you have the right to call yourself an accomplished mixed martial artist. But what made you decide to suit up for flag and country? Was it something that you dreamed of for the longest time?
Well, when I was growing up in Japan, I actually before I got into MMA, I was really focused on wrestling. I wanted to wrestle for the longest time, and I wanted to go to the Olympics for wrestling actually, and represent the Philippines in the Olympics. Because even though I grew up in Japan, Asia has always been my home. I went to the States for university, and then right after university, I came back to Asia. So, I really wanted to wrestle for the Philippines, for the country, for the longest time, and it was kind of always a pipe dream of mine. But never really had the opportunity because things took off with MMA, and you can't. I won't say you can't, but it's hard to juggle two different sports, and two training schedules, even if they do complement each other. But this opportunity with Sambo just suddenly popped up, and I was like, wow, I always represent the country when I fight in mixed martial arts, but this is to formally be a member of the Philippine national team for Sambo. It's different. So it was an opportunity that I certainly had to jump on and take. and I'm glad I did, and it paid off. And I can't wait for more future competitions, and hopefully the next SEA Games in Vietnam, hopefully they include Sambo and can go for another gold medal.
Being a professional MMA fighter, in a way, it gives you that certain mental edge. The best way to describe Sambo is like the close cousin of MMA. But was there a point in training or in actual competition you realize that it's a different ballpark?
Yeah, well, I believe that I get the mental edge from MMA, but definitely from wrestling. I started wrestling when I was 7 years old, and I have that grind mentality. I have that push through the pain mentality. So I do attribute a lot of my athletic success to my mentality as a wrestler, which is carried on into MMA and into Sambo after that. But yeah, to answer your question on how they're kind of two different sports and how I had a wake up moment, it would probably be that moment probably would have been in the Korean competitions where I went against a Mongolian. So I compete in combat Sambo, okay? For those viewers that aren't familiar, combat Sambo is very close to mixed martial arts, but you could think of it as kind of a sport version of MMA, a point version, if you will. So you get points for takedowns, for throws. You do not get points. Here's one of the key differences. You do not get points for punches thrown. So the only way to finish a guy via punches is if you knocked him out completely. So there are no points awarded for punches. Really, the points are awarded for the throws and for the takedowns and for time on top. And the only way to win the whole bout is if you knock out the guy clean, you submit him on the ground, or if you win by a majority decision with a lot of points. I think 6-0 lead in points. You have to win by 6, so 8-2, 6-0, etc. Anyway, what happened in Korea was I was going against this Mongolian, and we start on the feet just like MMA. We're striking. I throw a left cross. I rocked him. I saw his legs give out, and he shot for a takedown. I sprawled on the takedown. I went behind to take his back. I got in my hooks, and I'm pounding on the side of his head, looking for the finish. And then beep, the ref blows the whistle, and we stand up. And I'm confused, right? Because this is my first real Sambo competition. I'm like, why did you stop? I had great position. I had back control. I was going for the rear naked choke, and I just rocked the guy, and now we're back up on the feet, and this guy has all this time to recover. And I look at the score, and it's still 0-0. So basically what happened is, as I said earlier, you can't score points for strikes, even though I did damage him, and I rocked him with a left cross. I didn't score any points for that. And for taking his back, I did not score any points for that. And the exchanges on the ground, just like wrestling, are very short, So if there's no action on the ground, like a near finish, maybe you got, 10 seconds on the ground, 15 seconds to make something happen, whether it's a submission or some kind of finish. And then right after that, those 10, 15 seconds, we got stood up on the feet again. I look at the score, and it's 0-0, and I was kind of in disbelief, right? And then to make a long story short, anyway, he after that, he does 2 judo throws on me where they were clean throws, and I landed on my back, and I scrambled up and continued fighting from my back, right? But since the throws are really highlighted and they're kind of as far as points go in Sambo, they're kind of in the scoring hierarchy, they're at the top, So because of his 2 throws, I lost the match. I think I lost like 6-0, and I was just thinking to myself, like, what the heck? I had this guy rocked right at the start. I had his back. I was going for an RNC, and I was pounding him on the side of the head. And like, how did I lose this match, this fight? And after that, it was kind of a rude wake-up call, and I was like, okay, for the SEA Games, I got to make some adjustments. It is similar to MMA, but not really. It's more point-based. It's a sport version of mixed martial arts, and I got to focus on not getting thrown by these black belt judokas, you know.
And that's Mark Striegel. I'm Missy Casiano, sumasaludo sa atletang Pilipino. Stay tuned for more sports news and features only here on Team Pilipinas.
The new Philippine Sports Training Center in Bagak, Bataan is expected to be finished in 2025. But there's still so much work to be done. Here's part 2 of Boyet Season's interview with National Training Director Mark Velasco.
In terms of the number of sports that are already have been already listed under RA 11214, may mga NSA na mga bagong tayo, coach, di ba? There are new NSAs that have been newly formed and have been recognized. Paano naman sila? Madi-displace pa sila? Hindi ba sila pwede gumamit or will they be excluded as far as using the Philippine Sports Training Center is concerned?
Well, hopefully, no, hindi pa naman siguro namin i-give up yung Rizal and yung field sports. So there are still venues, and what I was looking at for the Philippine Sports Training Center, yes, it will be the main hub for the training of the athletes, but that would be the jump off point of some of the sports before they go to international competition, kasi it's a little bit isolated, so that would be their main intensive training camps. For other sports, obviously, if it's an indoor sport, then they can utilize the existing indoor stadiums or indoor courts of the PSC. Now, if they plan to obviously go to Bataan, we can also accommodate that. Remember that I said earlier in the law, the PSC, if the PSC deemed necessary to accommodate sports that is not listed, PSC can have the power to do that. So yung nakikita ko, yung nakikita kong would be the solution at the moment.
Well, there'll be a possibility that the Philippine Sports Training Center will host sporting events, like domestic sporting events as well as international sporting events.
Yes. Well, by the name itself, is Philippine Sports Training Center. So the structures created would not be the same structure that is created in Clark, in Rizal, wherein it is designed for spectator type of events. But international standards dictate that if you host an event, you should have an allocation of the minimum audience or spectators in a specific sport. So just to put that on easier context, look at yung mga schools natin. Diba, we have basketball courts which does not hold 2,000, but it has an allocation enough to hold a few spectators, and I think during that time we'll still have more planning, and we can actually still request additional budget if needed. But for a 25 hectares land, I think the buildings should be spaced out, with relatively spaced out. So if there's a future development, pag wala na tayo dito or wala na yung current officials dito, there would still be allocation para mag-expand or mag-retrofit. Remember, this law, it states that it has to be state-of-the-art and it can be used for future developments.
Looking beyond 2022, wherein obviously, Coach, the tenure of current PSC Chairman Butch Ramirez that's his tenure after the appointing body. If there is a different appointing body already, are there already plans by the PSC to more or less already expand or rehabilitate certain sporting facilities across the country, in other parts of the country, maybe in the Visayas or in Mindanao, that could also be part of the program going beyond 2022?
That's a good question, Boyet. As per Republic Act 6847 or the PSC law, only those structures that is under the PSC, yung control ng PSC and the national government, are the ones that PSC is allowed to maintain. If it's from the local government, the schools, the SUCC, hindi po saklaw ng PSC yun. So I don't see that the PSC would spend heavily on other structures, but I would see PSC be involved as a technical group, as a technical support, para, of course, sayang naman kung may structure na hindi standards, which actually there are structures, mega structures in the Philippines na hindi natin nagagamit sa sports kasi hindi nga up to the standard. Hindi nga nakapag-coordinate or hindi nakapag-consult with the PSC. And it's yung parang sayang eh. So that's what we are looking at, and we are continuing to provide support. We have in Ilocos Norte, they are constructing a sports complex. PSC they've consulted with PSC in terms of the standards of the courts. The one in Sorsogon, PSC is involved in the consultation and planning as well para po in the future yung mga mega structures that will be created for sports will be properly used or magamit man lang sa sporting event. So, but at the moment, Boyet, dahil sa SEA Games, you were able to refurbish most of the venues ng PSC sa Rizal. So we have the Ninoy Aquino, which is fully air-conditioned, bago lahat. And the Rizal Stadium, which is revived from its former glory. It's just so happened na nagka-COVID. So they used it for COVID. And historically naman, the Rizal Sports Complex.
Basketball zone, yeah. Oo.
Yeah.
Ginagamit talaga pag may sakuna, pag may national emergency, ginagamit talaga siya.
Yes. So that was the main function of that sports complex. And even as swimming pools right now are being rehabilitated.
And with that, I will say maraming salamat ulit, Coach Mark Velasco, ang Executive Training Director po ng PSC. Hope to talk to you again, Coach Mark. Thank you.
Thank you, Boyet. Thank you.
Bahagi na ng buhay nating mga Pilipino ang sports. Mula sa panahon ng unos, sa tamis ng tagumpay, sa kabila ng pagbabago ng buhay, ang Philippine Sports Commission ay patuloy na maglilingkod sa sambayanan at atletang Pilipino.
My name is Dennis Príncipe and you're watching Team Pilipinas Contact Sports. Ang ating pong pag-uusapan ngayon, and joining us is an icon of the national team. He's been involved before sa Wushu and has been a bemedaled athlete pagdating po sa Southeast Asian Games. Kaya po, siya ang isa sa mga superstars ng Philippine Mixed Martial Arts. Joining us is the landslide, Edward Folayang. Edward, magandang araw sa iyo at welcome sa Team Pilipinas.
Magandang hapon po, Dennis, and it's a pleasure to have me as a guest po. Okay.
Siguro, unang tanong ko muna, alam mo, ilang beses na tayo nag-uusap, nagkwekwentuhan sa mga programs. But right now, the latest, kumusta na? Kumusta na ngayon si Landslide as of this moment?
So far, that is good kasi syempre hindi naging maganda yung mga previous fights natin, pero ganun talaga ang buhay, and ang pinakamaganda yun, recover tayo para maka-cope up sa mga susunod pang laban.
Kwento muna kami itong latest about yung huling laban mo, no, kay Aoki. Siguro yung post-fight na mga happenings, ano. You mentioned about yung nga sa mga post-fight, no? Talagang hanga ka rin sa kalaban mo. But anong in a way naging magandang epekto nito sa iyo itong huling laban mo, both as a fighter and as a person?
For me, kahit na limited yung preparation, maganda doon. I learned a lot naman doon sa laban namin ni Shinya. and yung respeto niya sa akin as a martial artist, kasi siya din mismo nung tinalo ko naging mapait din para sa kanya kasi 2 years and a half na halos pababa din yung parang after nung pagkatalo niya sa akin, diretso na rin yung talo niya Pero naka-bounce back siya, and then yun, unti-unti niyang na-regain yung momentum niya, naging champion ulit. So siguro yun yung isa sa pinaka magandang natutunan ko doon. Minsan talaga sa buhay, dadaan ka talaga doon sa mga times na matetest ka talaga. Pero importante doon yung dream mo, yung goal mo talaga, yung gusto mong ma-achieve, dapat burn pa rin doon sa heart mo.
Slowly nagiging active ang maraming mga tournaments, mga events sa mga contact sports, no? Katulad sa inyo, tuloy-tuloy, meron pa tayong SEA Games. Pero ikaw ba, ano bang mga immediate and long-term plans mo right now?
Sa akin yung mga syempre yung long term na goal ko talaga, I can be able to be a 3-time world champion kasi ilan lang yung syempre nakagawa noon. And that's one of the long term talaga na gusto kong maabot. Kaya for yung immediate na plan naman para ma-achieve yun is to try winning yung mga matches. So continuous pa rin yung training namin. And we take this kasi na parang ito na yung work namin. Kaya talagang training, ginagawa yung mga paraan para mas mahasa pa yung mga areas na hindi namin masyadong doon kami na penetrate. So yun yung usually na ginagawa namin ngayon.
Yung first ever SEA Games gold mo happened 2003 sa Vietnam, and the next competition ng SEA Games is Vietnam. Akala ko nga, well, I heard na parang merong plano na for you to join sa Vietnam. But is it something na would you consider kung sakali, and if ever din, kung sakali man, anong mga sport ang possible pa kung ikaw ang tatanungin na mag-compete at least for the last time sa darating na SEA Games?
Well, sa akin, kung may slot siguro in a category na walang magre-represent, syempre hindi lang yung heavyweight, di ba? Yung at least na doon sa weight category ko, then probably I can. Pero pag may mga juniors or yung mga upcoming na magre-represent, then I want to, syempre mas maganda yung chances para for them to be built up, para mas gumaling pa sila and mas magkaroon sila ng exposure lalo na sa paglalaro. Sa akin kasi syempre more na naka-focus na tayo dito sa professional career natin sa mixed martial arts.
Yung sa Muay and even sa Wushu, yung original sport mo sa SEA Games, sabi mo nga parang ikaw gusto magbigay daan doon sa mga bata. But ganon? Kasi sa'yo parang added pride to win another gold for yourself para sa bansa. Pero bakit parang mas patimbang sa'yo yung mas gusto magbigay ng way o daan sa mga bata? Meron ka ba experience ng bata ka na parang ayaw mo ma-experience ng mga bata ngayon?
Well, sa akin kasi syempre yung gusto nating makita, yung alam mo yun, yung nagkakaroon sila ng exposure, more na nakikita nila yung, alam mo yun, nawawiden yung perspective nila, especially competing in this kind of international games, more na, alam mo yun, nabibuild yung confidence nila. And syempre sa akin kasi halos 20 years na tayong naglalaro and we want we want the legacy to be passed on. Syempre andito tayo sa professional ngayon and yun. I'm happy to see yung younger generation talaga na mas technical yung mga movement at galaw nila.
Okay, and lastly, Champ, while nasa pro ka na ngayon, for the most part, the last couple of years, nasa pro ka na, in a way, happy ka ba sa nakikita mo sa national team? No? Sabi nga na, amateurs, with the way tayo nakakapag-produce ng mga champions, SEA Games champions, even world champions, world caliber athletes, and in terms of the support na nakukuha nila, tingin mo, tama ba? Kulang pa rin?
Sa akin, yung maganda sa ibang mga NSA, mas nagiging open sila. Yun lang yung, for me, yung na-appreciate ko kasi kapag nakikita nila na for us doon sa Team Lakay na marami kaming na-develop na magagaling sa Muay Thai, sa kickboxing, magagaling sa martial arts, then they are willing to partner with us. And for us naman, syempre kung ano yung gusto ng mga bata, kung gusto nilang maglaro doon, hindi rin namin dinideny. That will be a good exposure for them. Kaya syempre you are representing the country, yun yung gusto natin in this team. We are open na alam mo yun, nakakapag-develop kayo ng mga athlete na magre-represent ng country ninyo. And yun, I'm very happy na in this sense nakakatulong tayo in this sport kasi doon nga tayo nagsimula noon. Nung time kasi namin, minsan very purist Kapag dito ka lang, parang ganon. Hindi masyadong open on our time. Pero ngayon, siguro yun yung na-appreciate ko. Mas open na silang tignan na, maraming magagaling dito na area. Why not we should partner with them, di ba? At least yun yung magandang nakikita natin ngayon. Nakikipag-partner na sila doon sa mga alam nilang mga team or mga gyms na nag-excel doon sa sport.
Alright, Champ Edward Fulayang, maraming salamat sa iyo and good luck.
Maraming salamat, Dennis, and God bless po.
And that's this week's episode of Team Pilipinas. I'm Dennis Principe. Many thanks to G1 Lodge Design Hotel for their support for Team Pilipinas in Baguio City. Join us every Saturday, 4 p.m. only here on PTV para sa bayan. And always remember, we are all on the same team. We are all Team Pilipinas. See you next week.